Dr. Dobbs does. In the project success survey, the goal of that survey was to explore how organizations define success. In the IT industry, we have this very unfortunate challenge where we've had a lot of theory forced on us over the years. One of the theories is that the definition of project success is that a project should be on time, on budget, to specification. That's a theory, and it doesn't hold. So if you look at the industry numbers, when people measure project success against that, the chaos report from the Standish Group reports a 34% success rate. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't observe that in practice. I see for years I've seen a significantly higher success rate. So we started questioning it at Dr. Dobbs, and because we couldn't figure it out, because the numbers did not reflect reality in our opinion. So we figured, well, maybe the assumption is wrong. Maybe that is not the way people define success. So we explored this. So what we did, we asked them, what do you value? What's important to you? So 87% of respondents said that high quality is an important thing. They'd rather have, they want high quality software, which, what the other 13% is thinking, I'm not so sure, but they would rather have high quality software than something that's crappy, but that's on time and on budget. 87% also said they would rather have software which meets their needs as opposed to software that fulfills the specification. Okay? So, and this is interesting because this reflects the fact that the Standish Group has numbers that show that when you do a requirement specification at the beginning of a project and get it and then work to that specification, that on average 47% of the functionality that you deliver will never be used. So you have almost half of your development budget gets wasted when you do a big requirement spec up front. Okay? So we're not fooling anybody. So this is interesting. Right? Our users inherently know that building software to specification is not such a good idea because they're the ones that are suffering from these problems. But they don't know to ask any better sometimes. So they would rather have something that meets their needs. So it's interesting, and this is what Agile is all about. We build working software on a regular basis, and we embrace change. We let people change their minds. We focus on quality. We refactor our code. We do more testing. We do test-driven development. As a result, we have greater quality than what you see in the traditional world. 80% would rather spend the money wisely. They want to have the best return on investment. They're not interested as much in having a system delivered under budget. They'd rather spend the money wisely. So they inherently know that these upfront budgets that we're doing aren't so accurate, which isn't news to anybody. Even the budgeting community will tell you that. It's not, we know we're not very good at doing estimation. So maybe we should stop trying, right? We're not fooling anybody with these traditional techniques. 75% would rather have a healthy workplace than delivering on time and on budget. Now, unfortunately, when you look at the data from just the business people, only 50% was interested in a healthy IT workplace. So if they burned out the IT staff to get their system out the door, that was okay with half of the stakeholders. So that's sort of bad news for us. So we're expendable, so in their minds. So we got to watch this. 61% would rather have the system when it's ready to be shipped as opposed to having it on time. Okay? Nobody wants crap on time. They'd rather have something that works properly. So then what we did, so once we explored how people actually define success, we asked them, so as you define success, as opposed to how the academics and the U.S. military tells you how to define success, because that's where the source of on time, on budget to spec is the U.S. military, if you trace it back. But anyways, don't get me going on that topic. But when you ask them in your own terms, how are projects successful, Agile has a 71% success rate. Traditional approaches, either for just a traditional project or a data warehousing project, which is almost always traditional, have a 63% success rate, and offshoring has a 43% success rate when success is defined in your own terms. So I thought that's a fairly interesting thing to observe. So Agile is lower risk. I was actually in at a company this morning where they were doing 50 projects a year, and they were thinking whether or not to try Agile. Well, try one, right? So if you've got 50 projects in a year, Well, try one Agile. It's only 2%. It's trivial, right? So, this is why, looking at the numbers can sometimes be a critical thing for us. So anyways, there's some decent evidence that Agile seems to be working better. In the adoption survey, we also asked, I wanted to go beyond the Agile rhetoric, right? Because this is one of the challenges in the Agile community. It's just like the traditional community has its religion, the Agile community has its religion. And we make a lot of religious-based arguments, like, trusting to do tomorrow's work tomorrow. Thanks for sharing your religion with me. Might not always be the best idea. And I've seen enough project teams shoot themselves in the foot with that strategy to know that maybe we should be doing a little bit of modeling up front. So I'll share some stats on that in a bit. But anyways, some of the rhetoric in the Agile community is you got to be co-located. So yes, but we didn't have any numbers on that. So I thought I'd go look for numbers. So I asked, so this slide's hard to read, but anyway, so what's going on here? These are percentages along the bottom. And what we asked was, what's the relative success rate of Agile projects with different types of strategies? So on average, this is the high, 90% or more of the Agile projects are successful, between 75 and 90 and so on. So what we found was that co-located projects, on average, were in fact more successful than not co-located. So we asked for three different types of projects. Co-located, where you're in the same room, working together, including your stakeholders, so you can easily talk with the business people. Not co-located, so maybe you're in the same building, but you're in different cubes or on different floors, or you're at least in the same city, so if you had to get together, you could easily. And then offshoring, where some or most of the team is in a significantly different location. So some of them are in Budapest, some are in Toronto, some are in Mumbai, right? So that sort of situation. So a couple of interesting points here. First, sure enough, co-located is in fact more successful than not co-located, which in turn is more successful than offshoring. It's not news, but it's nice to have the numbers, right? But people are succeeding at being not co-located, and they're succeeding at Agile offshoring. Also nice to have the numbers on that. Now, we're not that good at these things yet. Some of the tools are not in place, and some of the techniques are not well adopted. So we're going to ask this question again in about this coming March, because I want to see the trends. Because I think what's happening, I know for a fact, at least in terms of an IBM, we're getting a lot better at Agile offshoring. So it'll be interesting to see what the industry trends are on that one. So anyways, you don't have, it's a very good idea to be co-located, but it's not required. So keep that in mind. We also asked about team size. This chart is combining the answers from two questions. So we asked, what is the largest Agile project you ever attempted, and versus what is the largest project size Agile project that you've ever been successful at? So for example, we had, 65 respondents said that the largest Agile project they were ever successful at was 11 to 20, versus 80% said that was the biggest one that they'd ever attempted. So that's the way you read that. Now these two graphs here, these two bars here look strange, but they're actually true. So this is why I share the data. But anyway, so what happens is a very common thing that we saw was that companies would get good at one size. They would have they'd get good at one size, even though they would have attempted the next size up and not been very good at it. Which makes sense, right? As you learn, you get things. You start with a small team, get good at that. Next project, you try something a little bit bigger.